He's doing that because it took us a long time.
My husband is literally going to give you guys the very politically correct way, but I'm gonna just be a straight shooter.
No, you want to. What do you want to say?
In my mind, you ask a homie, or there's some professional way to do it.
We had celebrity friends being like,
I'll give it to you.
I'll take my eggs. I'm like, no.
Welcome to After Love, the official Black Love After Show. We have just experienced first comes love, then comes ... because a lot of things come when they come. And I'm joined by two wonderful couples, Adair and Jason, and Keita and Joe, to talk about babies and parenthood and how your relationship changes when all that stuff explodes your life.
Oof.
Welcome.
Well,
Thanks for having us.
all this anxiety.
Yeah. I'm just, first comes ... Right.
I'm like, let me take a swig.
And the reality is, they have a boy. My husband and I have 3 little boys. And you all are anticipating what we've just seen. You are anticipating a little black boy. Can you update us to where we are today?
Tell us, where are we?
Welcome to planet Earth. Welcome to planet Earth.
That part I knew.
We are officially
Pregnant. We're pregnant and expecting in, I don't know.
Any day now.
Any day now. Any day now.
That's amazing, guys.
This is really exciting.
Exciting and scary, and we're doing exactly what we said we wanted to do,
Right.
and we're having a little black boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will be calling all 3 of you.
Right.
I'll take it.
We'll be
Seeing as though
Take
there
it.
are 4 boys between you.
Yes.
He will be
So you have all
dropped
the
off.
secrets.
Yes.
Yeah. You have all the secrets.
And so what was interesting for me when putting this particular episode together and talking to so many couples is that there was a lot of IVF.
Yes.
Yes.
There was the reality that pregnancy or becoming parents isn't just like bada boom, bada bang.
No.
And you all are going through surrogacy, which is something I definitely want to shed a light on because there's just not one way. There's just not one way to become
So
parents.
many ways.
Yeah, we lean into the exact same way. There's not just one way to love, So within this process of surrogacy and however it comes to, however your child comes to, there's your way, and that happens to just be the right way for you. I mean, in the middle of the pandemic, we found out that we're pregnant, so that's another layer on top of it. So dealing with that and not being able to see our surrogate as often as we would like, as in real time. And
FaceTime only.
FaceTime
only.
Yeah, so everything's been technology, even from our ultrasounds and doctors, everything has been through technology.
Yeah.
But it is exciting. It's,
Of course.
it's magical. That's the best way we can kind of put it. We're able, through magic, he is going to be with us.
Yeah.
But
Through magic.
through magic, it's you know what I mean? It's kind of amazing, but also just being 2 black males and also going into something that's very new for our people. To talk about surrogacy is very new, and it seems very far away from us, but it's super close. And there's so many things that we didn't know, but we were lucky to have really, really great friends who went through it before us to kind of walk us through. But now we're finding ourselves walking people through and having,
so many people.
There's
now.
so many things that we found out that we wish we would have known. It's yes, it is very expensive, but there's so many other ways to do it that we found out that we could have for more than half we could have not spent to
Wait, I need to hear all of this because I think it's really important to let especially black people know that we have options, right? And that, because sometimes we look at this stuff and we're like, oh, this is Hollywood or this is expensive, and I love to demystify that. First, I want to go over here real quick. So, you guys talked through a difficult time that turned out to be magical.
Magical.
So what was it like sort of kind of reliving that, both in the conversation that we had, but watching it?
You know what? I think obviously she bared the brunt of most of the emotional stuff. I was just kind of being there in the supportive role. So, but, it's an experience to find out that, having a child isn't as easy as you thought it would be. You know what I mean? So, as they talk about information, it's just having the information. It's just we were aloof to
And to be honest with
process.
you, I assumed that it wasn't me. I didn't think I had a problem.
He was
you
like,
know,
could be me.
It could be me. I was like, now, everything works perfectly. Amazing, and it's magical. But the crazy part is what we realize is that a lot of times when you don't have anyone walking you through something that's unfamiliar, you're listening to everyone else tell you, well, are you guys doing it doggy style? Did you guys try it this way? Maybe you should eat the Mediterranean diet. Did you get your raw juices?
Yeah.
Right. What about your acupuncture?
Yeah, acupuncture? To kill CoQ10. And so you're doing all these things, but the best part is once we realize that fertility isn't a taboo, and you shouldn't be embarrassed by having an issue.
Right.
It's important to look at all your options. And for us, IVF wasn't familiar. That word was scary.
Right.
But we actually, thinking of Black Boy Joey, we tried for a few years to get pregnant when I got off of birth control, and then thinking we were gonna start IVF. And then going in, once I prepped my body, done the acupuncture, gotten my Zen, gotten everything right, go in and then they find a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up getting pregnant before I started my IVF. I was going in to get the ultrasound to make sure to count my follicles.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah, we were blown away because we
Blown
were
away.
expecting to get an ultrasound, and he's like, what's going on? And we've never been in this process before, so the little do-do. We didn't think. He's like,
I was like, my heartbeat's strong.
Whoa. That's another
Like, that's not your heartbeat.
I think I asked. I was like, what is that? He's like, that's a heartbeat, stupid.
I love that.
It wasn't mine.
Yeah. So,
It was our baby's heartbeat.
So but she had a fibroid, and she had fibroid surgery prior to, and we were going back to see if the lining
was secure enough for me to start IVF.
Right.
Because I'd had a miscarriage before. I had 2 miscarriages before, so they assumed my lining wasn't strong enough to hold the embryo. And he was like, just have fun, have sex, come back in. I can say that, right? Come back in.
Have sex.
Yes, have sex.
I mean, that is a
For any reason.
Have the magic. No.
Normally how it happens.
And I think putting the stress away and not worried about the acupuncture, not worrying about whether I can have the wine, honey, all those things, it allowed me to just relax and fall all the way back into this magic. And
It's amazing.
we got it. But now we're starting IVF because
Love that.
it's not just not doing things the right way. Also, age is a factor, egg quality is a factor, and understanding that is also a factor.
You know what's really interesting, what people don't know is like, even on our side when it comes to surrogacy, like we heard all those different things, like so many friends told us, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And there's all these steps that you have to prepare your body for. It's like no hot showers, make sure
even as men.
As men, like you can't do it. You
Wait,
can't
and
do
you
it.
said something in the episode when you were talking about how you were putting it off for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, we're lucky to be in a situation where we're doing a surrogate situation, so we have the opportunity to kind of time things. I was using that to my advantage. I was like, oh, I could just wait. Oh, wait, hold on. Just joking. Not going to the doctor this week. Put something on my calendar. So I had the opportunity to do all that. And then when Adair got kind of hip to game on that, he was like, oh, I see what you're doing.
And you were like, I'm not going to make that doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
So on both sides, the IVF side and the surrogacy side, what are some of the steps that you have to take individually, right? Even the no hot showers thing. Like, what are some of the steps?
It's very different. For us, we would have to.
Well, we had to abstain from sex.
Yeah.
Which was problematic for me.
For who? Right.
For this one.
Yeah.
Very problematic.
So abstain maybe for, I would say.
It was 7 days each
7
time.
to 10 days. Yeah, that was a long time. And then it wasn't the no hot showers, not work out as much, which is a problem for me.
Yeah.
And, we had all these things that we had to do to prepare ourselves.
And let me do this too, guys, because, we have a certain understanding here, but I don't know what folks at home understand, right? Surrogacy is when someone else carries your baby, right? So somehow a sperm and an egg have to get into another person.
Yeah, so a lot of people have a misconception that your surrogate is
the egg donor.
The egg donor.
Okay.
And that is not the case.
Which is not the case because legally you don't want any legal ties to it. So at this moment,
So your surrogate should not have a DNA tie to the child.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is just a vessel. She's the engine that's getting this child to you. It's on the train and it's on its way. So she's this magical, beautiful human who's willing to, bring your child along the ride for for us. So that is how it happened. So a lot of people
But there's still an egg donor.
So
there are 4 of us in this process, right?
In totality, there are 4
Jason
people
and
in
I,
the process.
the surrogate who's going to carry, and then the egg donor who was so generous and donated her egg.
How do you find an egg donor?
So for us, our agency helped us find an... he's doing that because it took us a long time.
My husband is literally going to give you guys the very politically correct way, but I'm going to just be a straight shooter.
No, what do you want to say?
In my mind, you ask a homie, or there's some professional way to do it.
We had celebrity friends being like,
I'll give
Take my egg.
and we're like, no, I'm cool, I love you, but that might be too close. But for us, we were very clear. We wanted a little brown boy. We wanted a black, we were very clear.
Yes.
Unfortunately, when you go to a lot of these agencies, there isn't a vast amount of black women. Because what we didn't offering their eggs. Also, it goes back to the education.
Yeah.
For us, it is infertility, fertility, sexuality, period, in the Black community is very kind of like standoffish and weird.
Taboo.
So you don't really get to have those conversations. And also, I have a best friend who went to Berkeley, and she would always talk about, she would be walking from class to class, and she would see signs, and it would never say, looking for Black women. They were very clear.
They're advertising for...
So when you go and look through these books where there's 9,876 billion of other...
And when he says books, you mean these profiles.
Oh, it's literally profiles.
Like
it's like a dating app and you go. But you get to this point where you're like, we're flipping and flipping. And I'm like, can I please just...
One.
It was one. And then I was like...
Wow.
Really?
Wow, that's really deep.
We had to go outside of the agency we originally selected to handle everything and get a different agency that had an abundance, a little bit
Black
more.
women.
But also what was very different is because we had to learn that from someone else. We have a friend who did it and they were like, this is what we basically did. We went here, 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 and they basically piecemealed their whole operation. So again, it goes back, there's every different kind of way to create your happiness, however you want to get to it. So we didn't know that. So we went outside of it and and I was like, sold.
Yeah.
I will take it.
Yeah.
And it was like, because the other ones in the books, you were just like, I don't know.
Because in the profiles, though, what I've learned, because one of our good friends, and actually my family, she told us about the process.
Yeah.
And it was a white woman who was my neighbor that said, hey, listen, my 2 kids are through egg donor. Now, she carried the baby. It's just that her eggs weren't viable.
Right.
And she shared it, and I had no idea the lack of diversity that is at the agencies. And you're right. You look at these profiles, you see the education, right? You're looking at their background, whether they have conditions or diseases.
Yeah.
All of that.
All of that.
There's a lot that goes into that too, I think, because one, our people really don't, or I guess it was thought that we didn't have the funds, and we weren't flush enough to be able to afford, because it's not a really cheap thing. It's more than buying a car.
Okay.
It's some
Like a Toyota or like a Lexus?
No, it's
more than a Lexus.
It's more like,
I would say, let's see, maybe 3 fully loaded Lexuses.
That's true.
3 fully loaded, and they're like, we want. Oh, you signed up. You
like,
signed up. This is great. We need our money today.
There's not like,
Yeah, we
okay,
need
let
a-
me just
that's
go.
right.
Payment plan. It's like
No.
everything is up
What?
front.
We need our money today.
me-
It needs to be in an escrow account, because you can't start the process and then be like, you know what, we a little short. There is no we a little short.
That's your baby. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So-
So prepare yourselves if this
Prepare
is.
yourselves if it's something that
I
you
think
wanna
it's
do.
just in totality, just the way our country is built. And not to take it to another space, but to just completely make it full circle, is that in this world and in that particular world, it's not important. That being of color, being Black, it's just not that important. So it's never been something that was looked into or sparked any interest.
Right.
So again, this is another thing that we're kind of late to the game because of just how society has created it. It's just when you go there and we walk in these rooms and you see all the pictures, and there wasn't a lot of pictures of like Black couples. All the pictures when you go into these places are like of white couples with their joyous families.
And sometimes they have brown babies.
And sometimes they have brown babies. But it's just like you go in and we were looking and I was like, yeah, well, of course you ain't gonna see it there. So it's just very interesting. But again, it's a learning process, and I think it's we're in a different space through everything that we've come through with the progression that we're trying to create. I think it's great to have these conversations where you can sit down and like our kids can have conversations and we're able to say, this is a way you can actually be, and you actually can just be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I want to talk a little bit about IVF too. Go ahead, Joe. You want to say something?
I had a question because you start out, because for a lot of people, obviously, you think that it's going to be extremely expensive, and you all just touched on that, saying it's extremely expensive. Now, being that you all have been in the process and you've been exposed to different ways of doing it, have you found out that there's a cheaper process,
or
should you be prepared it's going to be 3 Lexuses?
or maybe 4. Maybe 4.
Because there's certain, like we probably went for like 3.5 fully loaded cars, and then other people may go with, a G500.
Because you also selected gender.
Yes,
I mean,
we went through all of that. Because we get to the magic with this.
It's not really like the biggest cost.
Oh,
no, that's pennies.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I could do that. That's like whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that go into it. But another thing that a lot of people don't know, it's not the surrogate. That's not the number.
The largest
it's
cost.
The legal costs and all the other stuff. That's the
legal,
number.
Psychological. The agency is going to make their money. The IVF doctor is going to make his money, and that's actually like a large chunk of it. There's so many different pieces to the puzzle. The medication.
And so to Joe's point, though, what are there ways that you learn you could mitigate some of those costs?
Yes. So we have friends now that we're advising, and we're helping them. I think few of them are on their way to creating embryos this week, if not, next week.
An embryo is when the sperm meets the egg, and then we freeze that. Yes,
and we freeze that. Yep.
And we can find out if an embryo is male or female.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And you can also find the I hate to say the quality, but like it's a grading system. You get the grade.
Yeah. And
the healthy, I call it the healthy system, which eggs the healthiest.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna let them get back to the finance, because as men, that's where you be like, yo, so what's up with the finances?
Yeah.
So you were saying, so you found different ways that you can
we've helped our friends. Their costs are half of what we've paid.
Wow.
It's a little different though, and you really have to decide what you really care about, right? So, there are other places that you can do it. You can do it in Mexico. You can find other countries where they have the same exact program, and literally nothing's different. It's just you run the look, Jason's face. You run the risk of if something
One thing
happens,
I know, Jason's face will not hide
Let me tell you something.
the truth.
I ain't going.
He cannot.
I ain't going.
He's like,
I love
you want to
y'all.
be close, and you want the laws to. So your agency will likely, if you're working with the agency in the States, they'll likely find a surrogate carrier who lives in a state where the laws mirror the laws where you live, so that there's no confusion at the end. And when it's time to, take your child, there's no, legal ramification that you run into.
So it goes back to what you're
location
saying.
can make it cheaper.
Location,
Yes.
but it goes back to your question. It's just like, what do you want? Like, if you can afford or you go get it, or you just kind of like, well, maybe I'll just go,
Right.
You know what I mean?
There's a program where you have no connection to the surrogate. So as we're talking to our surrogate a few times a week, there are programs where you don't talk to her at all until the baby is born, and then they're like, here's your child. So like for us, and this is our first time, and that kind of takes away that magic a little bit. We decided
that's something that people actually want, but I guess
I mean, if it's the way that you're going to get to start your family, I mean, you consider all options. You consider all options. So that may be the way.
It's interesting.
So IVF is a process where I know there's needle, like I don't know everything.
IVF is in vitro fertilization is what IVF stands for. And most people assume IVF is just for women who have issues. It could be for men who might have low sperm count.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it could definitely be.
Joe's like, I didn't know that either.
That's not his problem. Let me tell you. That's not his problem.
Just so we're clear.
I didn't know that. That's weird. But again, it's another stigma that you only think it's only women.
No, it's not. I just wanted to share that because you guys have mentioned before, even with surrogacy. But with IVF, again, when we went in, he had to get his sperm count checked to make sure that he wasn't shooting a lot of bullets with no pow. And once he realized he had
swimmers.
You had some great swimmers. I mean, they were like Olympians over here.
Yeah. They was like, I'm gonna make this.
We up in here. We got it. But the crazy part is once you go through that process and you check out your uterine lining, and I urge every woman, even if you're not ready to have kids, I suggest that every woman goes to get their girlfriends checked out. And
At what age? At what age?
See, that's
is
the thing. That's what I learned. You just automatically assume that it has to do with age. Yeah. If you're older, you should go. And in this process, we found out like you can be 20.
Yep.
Yeah.
21. It's not too early, right? It's better to have the information, even if you're like, I'm single, I ain't even trying to get married. It's better to have the information than not need it.
And people have the misconception that because you go to the gynecologist once a year to get your mammogram, to get your pap smear, that is not getting your follicles checked. That's not seeing how your lining looks.
There are fertility doctors that can check for those things at any age for any reason.
And your gyno can refer that, so it's in your insurance group to refer you to get what you call an ultrasound to see what that looks like.
And another unfortunate thing is in our community is fibroids, which was her problem.
Which also aren't discussed.
Yeah, in the African American community is a very
huge.
Common.
A good friend of mine who ultimately went through IVF with her husband basically said that she had no idea she had irregular periods because her doctor would be like, "Is your period normal?" And she would be like, "Yep." Because she didn't know what not normal was. So she then is 30-something years old trying to have babies, and they're like, "Oh, we need to fix this."
But how many of us, I won't say ladies, sorry.
I was like,
how many of you guys have been to the guy? No,
I'm like,
never been.
Never.
I was supposed to be an OBGYN, but I chose fashion.
Was that your first career?
Yes, that was my first career.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we go fashionably clad to get our pap smear. Right. But I'm sure you've experienced it. But when you go to get your pap smear, it can be somewhat intimidating, but if you go every year, and it's the same doctor, let's be honest, they feel on the boobies, they look down there, you're talking, chit-chatting, yes, well, how did you do? And it's over. I always feel like that there's something missing because it's so routine that
it's not thorough enough.
It's
very
not thorough enough.
Very
it is. And so if you have not been to get, I say by 30, just go at least every 5 years to get your fertility check. 30, if you're not married, doesn't mean you can't go.
Yeah.
Suggest earlier than that.
Yeah.
Well, even earlier than that. I said by 30, if you haven't gone, definitely go.
It's just something we should control. We should take our power over, right?
Because some women don't know they have endometriosis. You can have low, what they call ovarian aging, which is what I thought. And you hear aging and you think it means old. You can be 25 years old and have 45-year-old eggs, which means if you get married at 30, your eggs are now 50. If 5 years are waiting. So that means the quality changes. So I had ovarian aging.
That's a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, I had ovarian aging in my 30s, so my eggs were almost 45.
Wow.
So I thought until they took out the fibroid and then my blood count changed and it changed the whole game for me.
So I want to talk a little bit about preparing for you guys are now parents to a 4-year-old.
He's 5 now.
5. He's
Since
going
we're
to
looking
school
at the
with my son in
episode.
the future. Yes. So
yes, our brown boys are going to the same school.
Yes, they are. And we'll pave the way.
I love this.
So, talk a little bit about how that changed your relationship, if at all. Because you got a whole new child in your life.
Yeah, tell us.
And then
what to
prepare them.
Please tell me
what
everything.
happens.
Sex changes, because I'll be on there like a raging cowgirl, and he comes in, I'll fall off like a slow cow. I'm pretending like I'm asleep.
When you say he comes in there, are you saying Grayson enters?
I'm gonna say this.
And then you're like,
I'm a raging cowgirl, honey, and he comes in, I'm like, hey, hey, sweetie. Yeah, it's a whole different, you fall off like a slow cowgirl, and you're like, hi, honey, come on and get into the bed.
We've never been caught, so I don't
Let me tell you something. He is, why are you looking at me in such, I'm sharing too much?
Crazy.
Be honest, though. It is probably, sex has got to be the most creative thing to do, because he still isn't totally in his own bed yet. Okay. So he can't.
He's like, y'all in my room doing something different.
He 3 a.m. He flies in like a superhero.
3 a.m.?
Like, what's up? What's
yeah.
poppin'?
You know what?
Yes, 3 a.m. sometimes.
You talk about what's changed. Let's
Yes.
just start. Everything changes.
Everything.
The
once you have a
sex
child.
changes first, though, a lot
Good thing
too.
the baby's
Yeah.
almost here,
I mean,
right?
of course. I mean, ultimately,
Once you have the
Can't,
baby.
yeah, we can't go back.
Yeah, but I think, in therapy,
Yeah.
it was never pointed out that that's a traumatic experience. And what a traumatic experience is when your life changes.
Yes.
So it did change. And, as parents, you're so in love with the process. Like, you have this little blessing,
Right.
so you just put all your energy into the kid.
Laser focus
And
on that.
a lot of times, you tend to not serve each other.
Yeah.
So, and then for us, like I said, you're just going through life. It just, whatever your normal is becomes your normal.
We honestly
But
had a disconnect.
my therapist, it was a disconnect for us.
Yeah.
And my therapist pointed out, was like, once you all had this child, your life has changed, especially for a man,
your
because
priorities.
I'm not the priority anymore. You know what I mean? The child is.
That's the story that
Yeah.
all of our guy friends talk about.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's an instant shift where you're like, but hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
So-
think about this?
Oh, I don't play any of those games. I'm not doing it.
It's like, I am the priority.
Let me tell you
Adair.
something. I'm not playing none of those games. We were very, very clear. We are so fortunate to be in a space where we can have.
go ahead, answer
First of all,
for us.
no,
Go ahead.
we're so super fortunate that we work so very hard, and we
do.
made a very conscious decision. The reason that we work this hard is because we want to create an environment and a home that is going to be taken care of. So every person is being taken care of when somebody may not be available. So we are very clear about that. But even in therapy, that's also, which is great.
Come on,
because
therapy too?
everybody
yeah.
has to.
Oh, no, you have to stay in
Because
therapy.
people get
It's
it
not
twisted.
just for when there's an issue. You just go to therapy.
You just
in
go. You
general.
just go. So for us, what a lot of people told us, and this is, again, I repeat this because we work so hard and we work so hard for this. Friends have told us, like, listen, these are certain things that you may need because it will help your relationship.
Like what?
So,
What are those things?
A night nurse.
Okay. I agree.
So
I
we
agree.
have
I
someone.
agree.
It is very clear. One of our couples, a husband and a wife, the husband literally said to me, he was like, Jason, it is the best money I've spent in our life. It literally kept us together because
We also just would not be able to do it with the way that our lives
I'm not doing
are. The way our lives are
Are
put
we?
set,
Are you
set
taking paternity leave from work?
We
This
we
makes
are
sense.
ish.
Yeah,
We are
ish.
ish. Yeah,
Ish.
we're
does that
gonna
mean? 2 days,
slow
3 days?
down for about
The magic,
weeks.
the magic is,
And then we'll be right back.
The magic
Slow
is
down.
we
You
are
need to
the
say so.
bosses.
Yeah.
That's the blessing.
So you can kind of be like this and still be very close and kind of do all that.
Yeah.
But it's the support. Like, unfortunately, Adair doesn't have his mother. She's no longer with us. My mom lives in a whole nother place. And it's just very interesting.
Yes.
Most of us have
Them
the
grandparents,
village. Yeah, they
yes.
have the village.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, our village is
And we
like,
have a village.
We have a village, but
created
it's
our own.
But not the
created.
kind that wants
But
to
it's a
stay
bit-
up from
yes.
10 p.m. to
Everybody's
7.
like us in the village, so they're like, we gotta go to work too.
So I want to touch on that briefly because a night nurse is a term that most people don't hear until
Yeah.
after they have a child. And then they're like, dang, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
And so, like you, our parents are far away. This was not something we had with our oldest, but it is something we had with the twins. And, put it in your registry budget so
Yeah.
people can donate to your
That
night
is so
nurse
true.
fund. It is real. It is helpful, especially if you don't have family nearby.
Yeah,
totally.
But I like to point out that just like surrogacy, right? You can mitigate against those costs in various ways.
Yeah, very well.
It also doesn't have to be every single night. Just make sure you give
And I
yourself
did
some
not
time.
have that.
Look at this. Look at him. Look at
And
him.
you're right.
7 days a week.
I think
It's
that
like
would
8 days a week.
because it is taxing all day. I mean, I was breastfeeding, so
a
not
lot.
only was and the night nurse would have been great when I wasn't attached. So my boobs were off limit for
I don't
him.
even think she would allow the night nurse. You know
No,
what I mean?
but
Because let's face it, in the beginning, like it's your first child,
Yeah.
so you want all those experiences.
Yeah, I don't even
And
think
she
I would have
was-
been open either.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
But the
She
second
was.
time.
Oh, you're
What
a
I'm
tiger
saying, the
mom. You're a
second-
tiger mom? You what we call a helicopter, what I heard they call at the playgrounds. You're a
yes.
helicopter mom.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're like,
Yes.
Are you?
Yes.
is he okay? Is he over there? Oh, what is he doing? Meanwhile, you're like, he's fine. Just
Yeah, no, that's
let
right.
it be. Just let it be. Just
We're
let
on our
it be.
scooters now. Hey, wait a minute. What are you doing? Hey, it's going too fast. You know.
How are you driving? How are you on a scooter from Toluca Lake to Burbank? That doesn't make sense. And he's 5. Why are you guys? So yeah, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You'll find out which parent you are
said,
in that space because he is very.
It's easy to fall in love with that child once that child comes. You know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, this is something that you've been wanting for a very long time. So once he gets here, you know, it's just you just. It's naturally just kind of fall in love with that child, and you put all your energy into that baby, and the date nights and the time alone and stuff like that, it doesn't happen unless you actually make a plan for it.
Right.
We're still trying to adjust because, like she said, our son is still in our bed, and it's just become such a normal thing.
I made a face like mine's not in my bed. He is. He goes to sleep in his bed, but he be coming over.
And you guys will think that it's not something, but what I realized too, it was affecting him. Because I was already breastfeeding, so my boobs were like, he's, having an amazing time, and I'm like,
right.
Like, this don't feel good.
That doesn't feel the same anymore.
Right.
Because now they're the resource for my, breastises are
Your
for
body's
food
shifting
supply.
focus.
Yeah,
Your body's like,
this is
okay, and we're doing this.
Meanwhile, you're like,
as a man, I see all the responsibility that comes with being a mother.
right.
So even in my need, I didn't want to put more on the plate.
Yeah.
I did
But that's
not
good
wanna
that
add.
you said that because we hear from guys who don't get it, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Well,
No,
you
often
should
they
just
don't.
you gotta. This is your responsibility. You gotta do it. Like how? Like how? How?
Yeah.
Like you want me to split myself?
That
in half?
word
But also we have to
responsibility.
That's why it's important to have a
Conversation,
a conversation about it, so you have an understanding of what we need to do because everything is balanced.
And an understanding about how each person is feeling, right? We talk a lot about men versus women and in parenthood, but no matter what your situation is, you have to have a conversation about how each person is feeling. You have to respect where the other person is, helicopter parent or not. And that's really, what we all, I think, can agree on and understand is that it's a shift.
It's a shift.
No matter when baby comes, 1 year
And
in,
fertility
10 years in,
put the
it's a
shift because it became a financial shift. It became a financial burden.
Yeah.
It became for him my clock is like, I'm very aware of these eggs, honey. They're going to be over easy with a side of grits. And I really want you to understand that each year, what?
No,
it's the truth,
it's
right?
facts, it's facts.
And what I mean, because I think it's good to be honest and open, but it's also like the beautiful part is that as women, our bodies change. Yeah. And as we get older, your eggs get older. Men can have babies as long as they shoot the magic. Yeah. But for women, the quality of that changes. Yeah. And every year, I didn't get pregnant with Grayson until we went in, I was 38 when we started. I got pregnant at 39, so y'all do the math. You know what I mean? And at that point, now we missed a whole year with the pandemic. Yeah.
Right.
So now we're right back around again to IVF. And he's right, it had a shift in us because that pandemic, if it wasn't for therapy, as I said before, our relationship was on life support without worried about the child. Yeah. But just in general, because, it allowed us to see things differently. And now he's like, another baby. I wanted another baby, but I'm not realizing that this man didn't have a peace of mind. So he wasn't worried about bringing another child into the world.
What is so amazing about this conversation is that just hearing you guys talk is just, it's just so good because it's just like you have to step out of your side of yourself, right? In order to see what's happening on the other end because the story is we're supposed to honor and take care of each other, right? Yes. And then in moments you lose the take care of. I still honor you, but in your head, I honor you. You're like, I honor you, but I just can't take care of you. You know what I mean? There has to be, going back to what you're saying, there has to be the balance. And also going back to what you're saying, how do you set it up? In order to service the house, you have to be able to service the parents that are actually giving, because it's everything that you're doing, your kids are seeing, right? And that's the example. So you have to literally be, my cousin told me this a long time ago. She was pregnant, she was like, baby, when you have a baby, don't ever let anybody tell you that, hold your baby, don't let nobody take your baby, you hold your baby. Nothing. She was like, when the nurse comes in and says, do you need some time to sleep or you want to give, he was like, you look at the nurse and you say, yes, I do. I do. Take this baby because I need to go to sleep because if I do not honor and take care of myself, I cannot service you or I cannot service the
From an empty
household.
cup.
You know, it's like, so that's the biggest thing I think a lot of people forget to have these conversations about. They're like, oh my God, it's a kid, it's amazing. Like, we have to give, we have to give, we have to give. But then at the same time, you give, you give, but then now you have destroyed the foundation that you decided to build this house on for this child.
And I think those are the two lessons, right? Honor yourself and set boundaries, know what you need, and also listen to and honor your partner. And those both can be very challenging. But I absolutely love it. I appreciate you guys so much for being here, for being on Black Love in the first place, but really coming here.
I was like, I just got started.
I could do this all night. Thank you to y'all for watching. If you are watching, you already got the Black Love app. Thank you. Now follow us on our socials and follow these couples' beautiful journeys as well.
Yes. And follow your fertility.
Congrats.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Salud.
Black boy joy.
Salud.
Yay, Black boy joy.
Yay.